Greetings to all our beautiful listeners of the Empowerment Podcast. Speaking as always, it is Lunga Mr. the Kumalo. Hope you're having a great day, having a great time. You are enjoying your day wherever you are. Welcome back to the Empowerment Podcast. As always, we are here to inspire, equip, and to empower you. And we hope that today's episode, in fact, we don't even hope, I know that today's episode is going to be of such. It's going to be inspiring, equipping, and definitely empowering. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel, Empowerment Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all other platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, you name them. We're everywhere, even on TuneIn, we're available. iHeartRadio, we are there. So make sure that you follow us and you give us that thumbs up in all those platforms. And we love hearing from you. So engaging with us or with our Facebook page, engaging with us even on our YouTube channel, we enjoy it a lot. So enough about that, all the formalities. Let's go straight to today's episode or today's topic. Today we have a guest. Those who are watching on YouTube, I think they are already seeing that I'm not alone on the screen. I have a guest, a beautiful lady, who's yet to introduce herself. But today we'll be talking on daily success habits. A lot of times, us as people, we talk about bad habits. So today we'll be talking about daily success habits. But before we get to the topic, let me allow my guest to introduce herself and to officially welcome her on the Empowerment Podcast. Welcome to the Empowerment Podcast. Maybe introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you come from, and then we could get to the topic.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Tshego Maringa. Full name is Tshegofatso Maringa, and I am from Pretoria, originally from the Northwest. I'm from a small village called Shagum. I grew up there. I went to school that side, and then later on I came this side to Joburg to further my studies. Currently, I work as an HR generalist. I have my own company, which we do HR services, and life coaching is a passion. It's not per se a business, it's a passion. I love doing it on a daily basis. Um, I went to, I've always loved speaking, but I then decided to get an accreditation so that I learned the depth of it. Hence, I'm also an NLP practitioner because it's an accreditation. So yeah, that's me. I'm a 33-year-old bubbly lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are life coach, personal developer. I always wondered how do such people or people who take such a path, how did they grow up? What makes one to have such passion that I want to be a personal developer or I want to be a life coach? What interests you about people so much that you would want to coach them in life?
So my story is a bit funny. How I became a life coach. I've always loved to talk. I think I started this talking from 2017. But at that time, I was not called a life coach. I think this life coach started recently. So I've always loved to talk. I've always loved to help people. Hence, I also have a company, which is an HR company. Sorry, which is an HR company. And I always like to strive to help people get employment, which something currently we're working on is to get an accreditation or a funding so that we can start training people who only have matric, but all train them for technical skills so that when they go and look for work in the construction or mining company, it can be easier for them. At least they must have like a basic certificate. So now going back to your question, I've always loved working with people. And I think, like I'm saying, then we were not called life coach. Now I incorporated it because of realizing that I actually love people. And in 2019, I went through a transition that made me almost lose myself as a person. But I ended up helping myself to master myself, to be self-aware. because at that time when I went through that transition, I was not self-aware. So that's when I decided that, you know what, I don't want people to go through what I've went through
Yeah.
because of it was not nice.
Yeah.
For me to not, if I want to help people to not go through what I've went through, then let me rather help people with personal development, with self-mastery. And with that, I realized that a lot of people then come and say, I'm actually not self-aware. I'm actually need help in areas in my life that needs improvement. So
Okay.
that's how I became a life coach. That's what I decided. No, let me also study this. Life coaching, it's not like a normal, like going to school for like 3 years or a year or what. It's a course that they will give you like assessments that you need to do, which can last you 30 days, depending on how flexible you are. For example, you can get a course that they will give you, it's on you. A day you need to at least dedicate one hour. If you have the full day, you can dedicate 8 hours, which you can do your life coach certificate in 1 month, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting
So it's
stuff.
not really a qualification. Yeah, so it's not really a qualification that takes 6 weeks, 6 months or more.
Mm.
It depends on you. If you have
Yeah.
time, you can do it within a month.
Mm. You know, there's a part that you just mentioned that reminded me of one of the blog I've written on my blog site. It was talking on crash and landed into purpose, and I think some other careers or some other callings that we find ourselves dealing with, it's not out of something that we dream of, that we always mention at school, that when I grow up, I want to be a life coach. Those cute moments, you know, some of these things are where we crashed, not
Yeah.
only to know that we are landing into purpose, we are landing to where we are actually have to be of great value and of impotence. So
Yeah.
uh, it's an interesting way to start this conversation, and I can
Yeah,
start
so
yeah.
some
Now you
some
can come in.
some 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 careers are based on passion, some are based on experience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have seen. I once put a story on Instagram where I asked, what has pain bred in you?
Mm.
And I got a lot of people saying it has bred pain. I mean, it has bred hatred. It has it has bred, like, there were a lot of negativities. Then that's when I realized that that is an area of improvement for you. If you still, if pain has brought negative feedback, where you can't say, for me, pain has bred success, purpose,
Mm.
because now I'm able to say, because of this, I want to help people. I don't want you to go through what I've went through.
Yeah.
You know, so it has breed purpose in me to make sure that other people don't go through that. Even if you go through it, at least I must help you to know the coping mechanisms, or to know how to master. I'm not saying you will get it right, and I'm not saying I'm also not. I'm also the expert. I also have my days. Some advice
True,
that I
true.
would give people. They sometimes also on me. I would say, Tshego, but you would give a person this advice. Use it. Like, I'm also a human at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And yeah, let me just go straight to what we've talked about before we get
Yes.
off course. But I don't think it's a wrong thing to talk about such things, because a lot of times it does happen that we sometimes view pain in a negative way only, and we do not see the intent and the purpose of why it happened. We sometimes dwell on the painful part and forget that out of the pain, there's something that has been bettered, you know?
Mm.
And I think that's the significant part about pain, that sometimes pain can come with joy, you know? And we might not even see that at that moment. Maybe it's not even
Yeah.
for us to see it at that moment, because we are going through pain, and we should endure pain and feel pain and accept pain and accept moving from that pain into the platform where we now start seeing the joy. that it might have had. But yeah,
Yeah, true.
yeah. Okay, we said we are going to talk about daily success habits, and it's a very vast topic, but we've prepared a very short questions or short program for it. But definitely the Empowerment Podcast listeners, they know that if ever they were interested in a topic and they want an expansion of it, they always
Mhm.
say it, and we always bring back the guest for the second episode. So I'm sure that with this, if ever there's a need forgive me for that, for an expansion, they will definitely let us know, and you'll see me coming back, and then and I hope it reaches that point, because I think daily success habits are things that we need to focus on. And going to what will be my first question to you, that what has been for you your your daily success habits that have contributed to the success that you are today? Yeah.
So, sure. And this is a very good question. It's a very good question. Because for me, I had to learn to set goals.
Mm,
Each day, each week, I set a goal. And by the end of the week, I do navigate or audit to see if I've achieved those goals. And if I haven't achieved, but I don't set aimless goals.
mm,
I set goals that are achievable. I set goals that are doable. For example, I will say this week I want to at least, if I have an assignment, to do at least 50% of it.
mm,
Looking at my schedule, as busy as it is, but at least one hour in a day I can spare to go through my assignment, try to complete it in which way or whatever way. So it's setting goals, number one. Being honest with yourself. Like I'm saying, you can't set aimless goals, because of the moment you set aimless goals, you will forever postpone them. Let's say I do five um goals this week, and then I'm able to reach three. Now it means I need to take the two and carry them over to the following week, and adding on top of another. So being honest with yourself and setting honest goals, I think it's a mechanism for not failure. But if you set aimless goals, this is a disaster for failure, according to me. Knowing good habits and bad habits. That's number three, point number three. For me, if you know the good habits and the bad habits, I think you are able to differentiate even when you start behaving. Let's say this week I set goals and then I decide not to do them. I'm on my phone. And I know that my phone takes a lot of, which is a bad habit if I'm on my phone and doing nothing productive. I believe we shouldn't use our phones to take away our time. Yes, I sometimes will be on TikTok. I don't have an account on TikTok. I just use TikTok to refresh my mind. But sometimes it will take my time. I would end up being on TikTok for 2 hours, but
well,
not even watching educational things, just funny things.
mm,
So you need to also be honest and measure your time. And as I mentioned, activating your mind and your soul. For me, that's a good contributor to your professional or personal goal. When I say activating your mind, I'm talking about exercising or doing something that activates your mind. Because of sometimes, for example, if I would come back home very tired, I would take a walk or I would run. When I come back, believe you me, if you can say let's start a meeting now or let's start an hour, 8 hour a day, I'm ready because my mind is activated. So for me, it's number one, set goals that are aimable. Number two, being honest with yourself. Number three, knowing good and bad habits. Four, activating your mind and your soul. Number five, planning your day, your week, and your months. It's important.
mm, yeah. And talking on the TikTok thing, it really consumes a lot of our time, and social media on its own, it consumes a lot of our time. It's more unfortunate if you are at the point where you feel miserable, nothing is happening in life, yet you spend so much hours and time on socials. Whereas that time you could be building up a plan or strategy of empowering yourself or
Yes.
even doing as we talked earlier on, a short course. You talked about courses that don't even take about 6 months, and we sometimes flood ourselves with these things and you know, maybe we should have started our conversation with even defining what is success before even going into the daily success habits, because I think for us, it differs
Yes.
how I understand
How we
success, because
define success.
doing something on a day that you have planned that I want to do this today and actually being able to do it, that is success. You are successful in doing it. So
Yeah,
we
true.
sometimes think of success as having a Lamborghini,
Money.
you know, as living large, basically.
And they say those people are the miserable. I'm not saying it's a fact, and I'm not saying it's
Sure.
everyone,
No, okay.
but those people are miserable, and we think, if I can have that car.
Mm,
I I
mm,
I I once read. I'm not sure if I read it or I heard it on the news. I mean, on the radio, where someone said, "I would rather cry in a Lamborghini than smile in a taxi." So sometimes what you see is not what
yeah,
you get.
true.
You might see Tshego as this, but possibly she's broken inside,
Yeah.
going through it. So what now I believe in that. What you see is not what you get with everyone.
Mm,
And we all go through our trials and tribulations in life.
mm,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And exactly with how we understand even habits, uh, habits are these things that hinder us, that put us in a stagnant position of not progressing the way we want to. Maybe let me say that's how we understand habits, like smoking for others, drinking excessively, being abusive, and all these other habits that there might be there. But similar with success habits, I personally think that it's a daily thing, as you put it again. It's not something that just drop ships, these huge thing that you've been able to do, but it is a progressive thing that you do on a daily basis. And again, you mentioned it. You talked even about exercising. Working out is
Mm.
not something that you just wake up and you go to gym, you pull up a few and then you're
Yes.
buff. It's a daily thing. You start up feeling like, why did I even start? Let me not
Mm.
go back again tomorrow. And the more you do it, the more it becomes your lifestyle, the more even your body adjusts to what you're doing. So I think that's really something, important for our listeners to remember. But I
Yeah.
want to know this. How then do we identify that this is a habit I need to develop more, or this is a habit that I need to focus more on, and it's actually working?
So I believe there are three elements in terms of developing and understanding a habit.
Mm,
There's a cue or trigger, there's a behavior, and there's a result.
mhm.
So the cue and the trigger, those are the main ones because, for example, the trigger is, remember we're talking about either good or bad habits.
Okay.
So the trigger or the cue, it's when you start, let's say, for example, you make me angry and then I'm triggered. So it's the root cause of the problem.
Mm,
Or let me not say the problem, is the root cause of a habit.
mm,
Because the reason I'm saying not the problem is because I'm talking either about good or bad
yeah.
habits. So the cue and the trigger are the root cause, are the fundamentals of a habit when it starts.
Mm,
Then it becomes a behavior. When it becomes a behavior, for example, Lunga made me angry. I
mm,
triggered and immediately I shouted. Maybe it was innocent from his side, but because there's a trigger,
yeah.
now I start behaving. And the behavior can be a bad action. Actually, with a habit, let me say it can be a bad or a good. Because if it's a good, then if I'm triggered, I would let me actually differentiate it like this. If it's a trigger, it's bad habit. If it's a cue, it's a good habit.
Okay.
Then a cue leads to a behavior. Both a cue and a trigger leads to a behavior. That behavior may be good, may be bad, depending on how I received or how the habit is. Was it a bad or a good? Then the result. Those are the three elements that I believe becomes a building block of identifying which habits are worth developing, which habits are not good developing. For example, I wrote this. In order for you to understand your habits, you need to do self-awareness. You need to be self-aware, or be observant of yourself. You need to learn to pay attention to your good or bad habits without even judging yourself. Because remember now, you are trying to get to the root cause. So the moment you try to get to the root cause and then you start judging yourself, I don't think you will get the results you want. The moment you start judging, forget. Because I believe when you are judging, you don't come with a logical, this is my opinion. You don't come with a logical thing. You come from a judgment point of view. I don't know. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Because I feel like if you come from an observation side, when you observe, you like, okay, this is where I lack, then let me. But when you come and say and judge yourself, ish, but I should have, but no, I'm entitled. Now you start having entitlements, you start being defensive. For me, that's when you start judging, that's what happens. And reflection is important in order for you to develop good habits. Every morning when you wake up, you dress up. Then after you're done, you look yourself in the mirror to see if you look good, you look bad. Sometimes you even change the top you're wearing because it doesn't suit or it doesn't sit nicely. That's called reflection. So I believe that even when you are on the edge of developing a good habit, you need to also reflect. Even bad habits, you need to reflect so that you know these are areas of improvement. This is where I went wrong. Now, when we come to the results, for me, the results now summarizes the cue, the trigger, and the behavior. Because the results, either it's bad, I would end up shouting at you, I would end up, or the result may be good. After I've developed those things, the good habits, now I have a better life of how to handle triggers, or I have a better way of how to respond to you.
All right.
Yeah. So I hope I said a lot, but I hope I said you understand how to identify which habits are worth developing.
No, it makes sense because as you put it again, it always up to the reaction, how you react, that tells what to work on. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? As you put it, that there are cues and then there are how the triggers, how you're triggered.
Yes.
And a lot of times I think it is there. It is there. How it's on the basis of the response. If I'm going to did it trigger something that you need to deal with, or was it a cue you need to respond to?
Yes.
And a lot of times it is there. The moment we fail to understand that as to what it did to us, we will not be able to deal with the cause. But what I want to know now is that for you now personally, can you, if you don't mind, share a bit of examples for us, your personal examples of how you have of habits you've struggled to maintain and how you overcame those challenges. And again, for both the good and the bad.
Let me talk about the bad.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll give a very personal example. So, on my previous relationship, for example, I learned to be spiteful. Now the relationship is no longer there. I'm in a new relationship. Now Tshego comes with that bad habit of being spiteful. How does that affect the relationship? Obviously negatively.
Sure.
There's no way it will affect the relationship positively. When it affects the relationship negatively, what happens? We fight. Even breakups, there's a threat of breaking up. Now I had to sit down, and hence I'm saying, you see, after I went through a transition from transition in 2019 to now, I had to, before I could say I want to be a life coach, I had to go through an intense self-awareness and self-development program for myself that I developed myself. Because I can't give Lunga an assessment that I don't really understand. So I had to go through an intense, and when I say intense, Lunga, like it was a very intense one.
Yeah.
Because I had to, and I said to myself, I'm going to be honest with myself, whether I'm evil or not. But if I'm honest with myself, no, for example, I had to be honest with myself. Now that's when I realized that actually I'm spiteful. And you can't be in a relationship and be spiteful.
Yeah.
If things are done unintentionally, that's fine. But if let's say I lock the keys, the doors, and takes the keys, how do you expect someone to come back home? Do you understand? But if it was a pure mistake where I thought he also took his key, that's, I feel like, as much as it's the same thing, if you can look at it, it's the same thing, but the intentions were different.
Yeah.
I took the keys knowing he doesn't have a key. I locked. That's the spiteful part. Took the keys, I locked, and that's Ama. Now, the good intention or the unintentional manner, I locked thinking he has his own key. I don't know if you get me when I say it's the same thing, but the intentions were not the same. So I had to go through that to say, it doesn't. And always when I do things, even my clients, I always say, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Would you appreciate if they do that to you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
As much as it's not easy to put yourself in someone else's shoes, but just imagine someone doing what you did to them. So that's when I had to work on that. And believe you me, when I say I really had to do an intense and go through a severe self-awareness project on me, I did that. I don't want to be that person who would advise people of something, but on the other hand, like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I don't want to be a hypocrite to say, to give my client to say, these are the assessments that you can take. Go and do them. Come back, we do one-on-one sessions. But I know that I'm also doing the same. I'm spiteful. It doesn't make sense. So I had to be honest. I had to go and I had to do assessment. I had to be aware of my good and my bad habits. And I had to check if those habits, the bad habits, how do they contribute to other people? How do they contribute to my life as well? And that's when I had to change them. But in changing them, that's why, for example, if you see on my timeline, you will see I always do 21-day challenges.
Yeah.
So those 21-day challenges, that's when I would do the daily task to say, today do this. You don't have to, when you are on the 21-day challenge, you don't have to come back, because I would open a group. I do it virtually with everyone. I would open a group, add you guys on. Each morning I send you task. You don't have to tell us. I believe you are honest. So whatever you write, whatever I'll give you, on the 22nd day, that's when you go through them, you reflect on your own. If you want to send them to me, it's fine. But you don't have to send them to me. It's your own. You need to go through it and you do your own assessment and check. Because there are questions where I'll ask you, what are your toxic characteristics? Yeah. What triggers you? I will ask you those intense questions so that you go through the emotions. If there's something that you haven't healed from, then you need to go through the emotions.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
Ish.
intense, but it's
Yeah,
nice. I
it's,
love it.
it's really intense. I'm just thinking on it. Sometimes we don't want to let go of the baggage. We don't want to let go of and it's very I don't know if I'm using the right word if I'm saying ironic, but we we are quick to defend ourselves whenever we have been triggered. But it's so difficult. It's so funny how we know we've gone through stuff. And there's this thing that we normally say. I don't know if you'll understand it. I'll say it in isiZulu ukuthi sengimdala manje ngizokwazi ukuyivikela. You know,
Yes.
I'm more capable now. I'm strong now. I'll be able to defend myself. And we don't even understand where does that saying or statement comes from. That on its own screams that there's something that happened to you.
That
You
happens.
need to deal with it, you know. And
Mm.
moving on, because I'm also seeing that we are slowly running out of time. I
Mhm.
wanted to talk about the importance of routines and the role the routines play in building these habits. I said this earlier on that bad habits happen out of routine. Also, good habits happen out of routine. So, the role that is played out of habits in having success.
So going back to what I was saying earlier on,
Okay.
it takes 21 days. Okay, let me explain the 21-day challenge. Reason I'm doing 21-day challenge, it's because it takes 21 days for a person to get used to a habit. So I live on habits. Like this week, my habit, my no, sorry, I live on challenges, not habits. Sorry. So
Okay.
this week, for example, my challenge, it's a 7-day challenge. No, it's a finding gratitude in anything and no complaints. Even if I want to complain, I will not complain. If I got, let's say I was thirsty for water and I never even got water, I will be like, okay, at least I'm alive. And I will not complain that I didn't drink water. So I always live on challenges whereby I task myself to say, let's go through a challenge of reading. Let's go through a challenge of I'm targeting good habits.
Okay.
So as I was saying, it takes 21 days to get used to a habit. Therefore, if you want to first build a routine, you therefore need to do planning. I think I mentioned this in the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to plan. You have to plan your day. You have to plan your life. You have to plan positive routines that will contribute to your life. You need to start small so that you can't say you want to plan your life or you want to get your life into a good routine. And then you start by saying, in the next 6 months, I'll be okay. Start by 7 days to say, this week, I want to achieve this, or start a month to say, I want to achieve these goals by end of the month. You need to channel yourself to have aimable, um, aimable goals so that they don't even strain you. Because sometimes when you end up doing aimless goals, they strain you also. So I believe in order for you to have a good routine, you need to start drafting your to-do list. You need to start planning your day, your schedule. If you can see my diary, I work with my diary. I don't have a PA, but the moment you and I schedule an appointment, I write it down.
Mm.
I think I even said it to you. I forgot to write the other appointment down. That's when I double booked myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I write my list down, I'm able to plan my week to say, okay, today it's this, tomorrow is that. Then nothing else can clash. So I believe in scheduling. I believe in planning. Those are the good things to build good habits for you to succeed
Mm.
or for you to have positive and good habits.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe, one of the things that I think we need to emphasize on is that, again, it goes back to how we define success. These things are not going to make you a perfect individual after doing them. They're not going to give you $1 million billion. The only good thing that they come with is that you will be an individual who's aware of what they're doing, where they're going, and how they're going to get where they're going. These things they're going to, even with the financial 21-day plan, or, you know, because I think we sometimes think too seriously when it comes to finances, and we think very little when it comes to being organized, when it comes to dealing with self and how one, because I know someone might watch this and take it too lightly and say, why would I even want a 21-day challenge of gratitude? Why would I want a challenge of reading books? I've heard someone say that, and I was sort of offended, maybe because I'm a writer. I was like, how dare you? Because all of
I
these
think I
things,
think they haven't got. I think those people haven't got to a stage where they need to self-assess,
yeah,
unless if they got everything figured out.
yeah,
Because none of us have,
true.
unless
Mm, very true.
no.
And it's important that we understand why we do what we do. If it's a challenge, then why are you doing it?
Yes.
If you're deciding to work on your finances, why are you doing it? And how much of value is it? Because we
Mm,
put time where we value. That's the
mm,
honest truth. We spend our time as we spend our currency, and we spend it where we see value, you know.
mm,
Um,
true.
um, yes, as we were saying, but overall, it's 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 important that people have routines and they stick to these routines. And they understand that these routines are there to help them. And yes, starting them might not be as fun, might not be as exciting. Okay, maybe starting is exciting for a lot of habits. But as time goes on, you then realize that it's not as easy as you thought. When something you're thinking it outside of excitement now in its
Mm,
actual reality and the challenges that come with it. Because let us be honest, everything comes with its own challenges. And if we can
yes.
understand that from the very point when we are still excited, then I might be excited now, but it will come with its hardships and its challenges. You'll then be able to endure the routine and everything that comes with it. We are towards the end of our episode, but I cannot let you go without asking this question. For a person who's saying, okay, I hear you guys, and I want to start living a daily life of success by improving my habits. I hear you're talking about challenges, 21 days challenges, you're talking about routine, talking about understanding triggers, everything. But how can someone starting incorporate positive habits into their life without feeling overwhelmed?
I think the simplest way is to first, you need to identify which are your good and your bad habits.
Okay.
And the good ones, that's when you start incorporating them into your lifestyle. The bad ones, you need to now start to eliminate them from your life, because those are the ones that will hinder you
Mm.
in having a positive life. Or that's when you feel overwhelmed because of you have bad habits that, for example, get you triggered easily, and you become overwhelmed with life. So I think first you need to identify those good and bad habits so that you turn them into intentions and knowledge about your lifestyle. When I say turn your habits into a lifestyle, I also mean like diet, exercises,
Mm.
self to work on your self-esteem, which will lead to your self-development. But the
Okay.
simplest way, know your bad and your good habits. Take out what's good, leave out what is bad.
Mm.
If you don't want to go through those 20, it can sound like a tedious experience to go through the
Mm.
21-day challenge. No one wants to, people love change, but they're scared to go through
Yeah, the
that. That's
journey.
why some yes, the journey. So some people are lazy, but also sometimes being lazy doesn't help. But what can we say? So those are the things that as a person you need to start learning. You need to make sure that you learn um the positive habits. You leave the good the bad habits. So also, for example, incorporating habits requires you to be organized.
Mm.
You must take action. You need positive attitude. You need personal care. You need to read. Unfortunately, there's hard work either way. Some might not seem like hard work, but there is hard work either way.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. And as you're talking about hard work, I think it's important that I don't know if it's something that is actually there, what I'll just say, but make hard work enjoyable. For
Yes.
example, turn, as you talked about reading, turn reading into a hobby, something that you do for your pleasure, for your relaxation, for enjoyment, not something that will be now an exercise or something that will be out of your comforts or out of your pleasure zone. And I think if ever we deal with things from that perspective, it's easier to do it continuously and for actually to do it and actually see the benefit of doing it. I
Mm.
remember that I came across, or yes, it was a video on TikTok. My algorithm on TikTok is very wild.
Is it?
It's not so much of comedy and whatnot. Not that I don't like it, I do, but I've pushed it so that I could learn something at least out of doing it. So I have a lot
Mm.
of people who are reviewing books, who are motivation. I have a lot of that on my TikTok. And then now and then I do watch comedy, but I have to search for it for me to find it. It's not on my actual algorithm. So I came
Oh,
across this
mine
lady.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I,
the moment the moment you sorry, the moment you get to my, like I'm saying, I don't have a TikTok account, but
yeah,
I get once you join TikTok, it will say you will select.
yeah.
So mine is just because I'm using it just to relax my mind, not per
Mm,
se
mm,
to. But if I'm searching for something, I would then go and search and look
yeah.
for a particular. But mine is just to relax me
Mm,
or to
mm,
yeah, just to relax my mind, and then I will just go through
mm, mm.
the comedy ones and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I was talking about a TikTok video that I came across. In fact, we
Mm-hmm.
find her on the podcast. I remember because when I saw her at first, I was like, I know this lady. But well, she was like guest on the podcast. Back. It is Lihleng
Oh,
Ngongo. It's Lihleng Ngongo. Um, she now has a TikTok. In fact, she started doing like she was, those things that they used to do on TikTok where they will imitate or they will meme,
yes,
a meme
yes.
video. It's a sound, but it's a different person now. I think she
Mm-hmm.
used to do those videos back then when we had her, and she was very big with TikTok. So
Mm.
now she has changed her content. She now reviews books. Um,
Oh,
she's now spending less time on TikTok. She's now more reading. And there's another one who is, I think it's Hombagazi. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong.
mm.
She's also doing the same thing. She cut TikTok and the time of TikTok so that she could have more time reading. And now she was so
Reading.
excited because now through reading, she's learning new words, you know, and she was now flexing with those new English words. And it was so beautiful to watch. Hence, I'm saying we need to make these habits enjoyable, not just
Yes,
something that it shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be
yes.
weight on your shoulders, but it should be something that you are actually enjoying. You can come in.
Yes, and you don't even have to buy like big book that is full of, there are small books that
Yeah,
has
yeah,
100 pages that you can start to remember. It goes back to a habit. You getting yourself to the routine of reading. So you can
yes.
get a book
Building a
that has
routine.
yes, still under psychology or still under business or whatever your interest is in, but you can still get a book that has smaller pages, less than 50 or 100 pages. And I think with that's another strategy that can help you to learn how to read. If you struggle, because I know there are people who struggle with reading, they would rather even listen to an audio than read.
True.
I was one of them. I would prefer listening to an audio. I would drive from Rustenburg to Joburg listening to a book. But somehow it just, for me, it wasn't enough, because you can't even make notes while you are driving. You can't. That's when I decided I'm starting small with small books. Then now I can read even a book full of 500 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we talked on earlier, routines, building routines, start small. It's the same thing they always say when you're going to gym. You don't just go there and you're now picking up 50 kgs, 500 kg. It doesn't work like that. You start with the 10, the fives, and then you progressively, your body tells you, you progressively go up the beat, until you reach those ultimate big guns that you are aiming for. At the time, even your body will be telling you that now you're ready for this, now you're ready for this. Similar as the example we're making, reading, your vocabulary and understanding of words will tell you, the way you think, the way you view things will tell you that you're now ready for a bigger book. In fact, even your pace of reading, your reading pace as you're reading through pages, you'll find yourself finishing a book of 100 or even 200 pages in a week or a day, and then you'll understand. Even a more beautiful thing, I just learned it, I think this is today, if not yesterday, that even on Amazon, it tells you with the length of the page and the number of words that are in that book, that it can take you 2 hours to read. I was like, yo, there are people who read a book in 2 hours, and these things start small, bit by bit, gradually, as you progressively grow in doing these things.
True.
We're about to wrap up, as I've been saying, but I want a last question that is not on script, but I think it's important that we throw it in there. This question says, is it possible that good habits can turn to bad habits, where you started going to the gym and now you can no longer live without the gym? You've started reading books. You now prefer books over people of, you know,
Yes.
you've started these challenges. You cannot live without these challenges anymore. In fact, whenever you haven't done a challenge in a month, it's like you're not alive.
It's possible because, for example, you gave an example of a gym, or let's say of a book rather.
All right.
Now you start, I don't want to say resent people, but you start being antisocial. As people by nature, we are social beings.
Sure.
Somehow we need to interact with people. And this is why during COVID, a lot of people were depressed because we were indoors and not being around people. So I always believe in this thing. Too much of everything is too much.
Sure.
Because I can't be going to the gym all the time. I need to also get rest. That's why, for example, when you start gym, you have to have rest days. You can't go to the gym 7 days a week. You're not giving your body to rest. Remember also, when let's say you are on a weight gain journey, if you say I will go to the gym for 4 days, there are other 3 days you're giving your muscle time to grow. So if you go 7 days a week, when will your muscle get time to grow, and when will you gain weight? So sometimes if you overdo something, you might not even achieve the goal.
Okay.
Do you understand? Yeah. So you go to gym 4 times, your rest days is 2 days or 3 days. You give muscles enough time so that they stretch, you start gaining the way you want. But now you go 7 days, you even defeating the purpose of you going to the gym. So good habits can become bad habits to a point where if people read books, they prefer now not to even visit, to even see people. We are social beings as people. We need to see people. So yes, to answer your question, I do believe good habits can turn into bad habits. If you say, for example, you start a habit of being clean, some people get to a point where they don't even want, even this is a person leaves a cup. No, we're still human at the end of the day. I always say, at the end of the day, whether I do this or I do that, I'm still human.
Yeah.
As much as I can set goals, but I must not remember we are still human, all of us. So, yes, I do believe a good habit can be a bad habit.
Yeah, I think that is a very important part to add on this beautiful conversation we've had, that as much as we want to achieve these goals, we should never forget that it is still possible for us to miss the goalpost where you are
Yes.
aiming there and your shooting is just straight
Mm.
far from it
True.
because you're too obsessed of the goal over the process that we need to undergo to reach that goal. And if the process says now you need to rest and get back
Rest.
again to that workout. And it's so important to, there's this saying that says trust the process. I think we as people sometimes we get too obsessed of where we want to be and we forget that the process will get you to that goal. As it says, trust the process, trust it that it will
Trust the
get
process.
you there.
True.
And this, I think it is made by this obsession, not even an obsession, but it is made by this
I
new
think the
world.
reason they trust the process, they have seen that people get impatient. People want overnight success.
Yes.
And yes, so that's when trust the process come in. If, for example, I want to achieve, like I said, I didn't just wake up and become a life coach. I started, do you understand? And I think we need to have practical examples about life. If,
Mm,
for example, today I traveled from Joburg to Klerksdorp.
mm,
I came across grass, what is this, gravel road? I
sure.
came across 60 zone where we are in a hurry, but there are cameras. Should we hit, the camera hit us? So there are obstacles. What I'm trying to say, there are obstacles on the way to your success. There's no way, there's no smooth way that you can get to
Mm,
your end goal without having obstacles. So
sure.
overnight success, it's shortcuts. And when we say people must trust the process, we meaning people need to understand that it will not be easy to get there,
Yeah.
but you just need to work, persevere, hope. We need to also hope or
Mm,
have faith
mm,
and get there. Faith on its own, it won't get you there, but you need to incorporate it with hard work. You need to incorporate it with
yeah.
perseverance. Sometimes you can, you can have faith and hope. I mean, faith and hard work. But if you don't have perseverance, you won't trust the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely won't trust the process.
True. True. I like what you just said, especially I'll say this because I know that the audience of the Empowerment Podcast is mostly Christians. Um, we sometimes, as Christians, we focus too much on the faith side because maybe that's our strength, and we neglect the hope and the perseverance parts, and we easily see our faith has failed just because we lacked perseverance. It's not because maybe faith didn't work. We lacked
Mhm.
perseverance and patience. We were not patient enough to the process. When we reached the gravel, we were like, oh, okay, it doesn't work. We are giving up.
Yeah.
Let's try another route. No, faith doesn't say it comes to be smooth. It's just saying
No.
it's your fuel of going even when it's not making sense. It's your
Yes.
fuel of going even when basically faith
You
is
don't know
telling you
where
something
to
that
go.
is not there.
True.
So I think that is very important in our journey of winning, not just winning ultimately, but winning on a daily. Because we have
Yeah.
turned success into an event. It is a one-day thing. It's graduation. Yeah. We forget about the
But we don't
4 years.
know. We don't know. Remember, we celebrate the graduation day. but we don't know how many times did that person fail.
Sure.
How many nights did this person not sleep and still go to work the following day and manage to submit an assignment or a test or an assessment or whatever it is? We don't know the financial constraint that this person went through. All we see is the end goal.
Sure.
And which is beautiful.
We've made it an event over being a daily thing. That's why we are so depressed throughout the time. And we are looking so forward to that one day where we'll celebrate this thing that we've been dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We're just looking forward to that graduation day where Shango on my lap stage, and it's beautiful, as you said it. We are not discouraging it. It's also beautiful, but it will be more beautiful if we celebrate those submitting on time, your assignments, celebrating that you are still in schedule, you are still consistent with your studies, those little victories building up to that ultimate victory will be as good, and it will make it the journey seamless and more productive rather than just
Yes.
waiting for that one moment. Hence, a lot of people are depressed if ever that moment, maybe, for example, as we are using an example of a graduation, maybe or one of your parents has passed before seeing you graduate. The whole journey that you've endured is now down the drain just because that eventful day that you've marked as success is no longer going to be experienced with the people you wanted to experience it with. Whereas if you had celebrated life with them on a daily, them seeing us throughout the journey, they'll understand the success we've been having more than them seeing it on that day where we're wearing a robe on a stage. That day will be as valuable as the days on a daily that they get to see.
Yeah, true. True.
No, thank you so much for making time. Let me just give you this opportunity to do your closing remarks. And I know you talked a lot about being a life coach. Maybe share about that as to maybe some of our listeners who might be interested in that or maybe interested even to reach out to you. You talked about a group and that you also do 21-day challenges. Just tell us how we could get a hold of you and yeah, closing remarks.
So I'm on Instagram. I'm active more on Instagram. I think it's a platform that's where I get to speak to my clients or I get to get clients from. I'm open to anyone who would like to learn or to do an introspection because I have those self-assessment tests that I can give you. You can go through. But I want to leave this platform by saying self-awareness is important. When you are self-aware, it gives you the power to influence the outcomes.
Yeah.
It helps you become a better version of yourself and a better decision maker. It gives you more confidence. Believe me, when you're self-aware and you, the confidence, it's there. And being self-aware is important. Once you're self-aware, you will start working on things like your personal development. Then you will start mastering yourself. Then that's when, like I was saying, the confidence come in. So this is a platform I'm passionate about. I help people. I help young individuals. There's no age. And I'm not sure if you did see on my Instagram, I have an event that I'm doing. It's an annual event. I have a business partner. It's actually an NGO called The Art of Unbecoming to Become. So this is an NGO where we empower young, old. We're not discouraging because of even other people who are 40, 50, they still not sure about if they really chose the right career or not. So on that event, we talk about personal development. mental health, and financial literacy, which are the three aspects that we have identified and saw that the people are struggling with. So obviously we get the experts to come and speak on those topics.
Okay.
For example, this is our 4th year. So in the previous years, we had doctors who would come and talk about mental health, but they don't talk like the technicalities. Remember, this is an event. It needs to be fun, yet we are learning. So we try to make it to get someone who won't speak as technical and telling you about the biology, life science, but to take us through holistic process. The other time we had Dr. Rita who spoke about how our brains is channeled, but the explanation was not merely explaining the brain cells, but it was talking about how a person ends up feeling depressed, what causes those things.
Okay.
Yes. So that event it's open to anyone, any gender. We noticed that a lot of events are female orientated. That's why there's one we cater for everyone. So those are platforms that people can also come and enjoy and yet learn if maybe people can afford to pay life coaches. But also you can still Google self-assessment tools. If you can afford for Tshego to help you, you can still go and check self-assessment tools or bad habits, how to get rid of this. Google has everything. So anyone who wants to contact me, they can go on my Instagram. They are working on my website. So we will have 2 websites, my company one and the life coach one. So after it's done, that's when I will give away the website where it will direct you or directly to a WhatsApp. So yeah.
Thank you so much for offering us your time, and thank you for being patient with me.
No, thank you for inviting me. I think this is a platform where we get to introduce ourselves as becoming people, and I'm saying, because I love this, for me, it doesn't even feel like it's work. It's something I love. I'm willing to do it anytime, any day. If I were to quit my job, I would quit it, but I need to survive.
No, thank you so
you.
much. We wish you all the best as the Empowerment Podcast, and I'm sure that we'll definitely have you back again for the second one. I think we shared a lot, but there's still a lot to be shared.
Yes.
So I'm sure we will be having a follow-up conversation, maybe not on this topic particularly, but on a different one. At Empowerment Podcast, we love such conversations that are inspiring and equipping and empowering. I remember that we have a friend of a podcast, I like to call them that, who is Dr. Kylie Makatini, who is a neurologist.
Yes.
It's always hard to say that. Who is a neurologist. We normally bring him on board and have such conversations. I would love having a conversation maybe with you and him. I'm sure it will be a good conversation,
Yes.
but in a distant future, we'll definitely schedule it and make it happen. But thank you so much for today. Thank you for making time. And
Thank you.
all the best. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, Heather.
Thank you.
Empowerment Podcast. Inspire, equip, and empower.